Hello, and welcome back to the studio. Over the past couple of days I've been looking through my archive and I came across some film clips that I took back in September 2017. And it features a walk that I did over Armboth Fell. That's one of the fells that Wainwright included in his Central Fells region book. Why he included it is debatable. But I did that walk and I also included another top called Brown Rigg, which he had originally considered including in the 214 fells or the pictorial guides. Armboth Fell is a notorious fell for being wet, and he even says that it's not really a fell worth climbing. But as he included it in the pictorial guides, we all go and have a look and tick it off. I hope you enjoy the film. If you've not been before, you'll get a flavour of what to expect, but if you have been, it will give you a reminder of just how wet Armboth Fell can be. Enjoy the film. The area for this walk is just to the left of Thirlmere Reservoir, about halfway between Keswick in the north and Grasmere to the south. Parking can be had at the Armboth car park. It's pay and display. From there we'll head up through the forest to the viewpoint of Fisher Crag, before crossing west to Armboth Fell summit, and then we'll walk south down past the Shepherd's Cairn to Launchy Tarn and across to Brown Rigg before we head back north to pick up Launchy Gill, down through the forest, and when we reach the road we'll head north back to the car park. At the exit of the car park there is a path directly opposite, but we're not going to take that. We'll head left along the road for about 100 metres before picking up a faint track which goes right and uphill through the woods. In a short distance we'll cross over Fisher Gill and then through the woods you'll come across this broad forestry track which will take to ascend the fell. It's a very well made track, but it is steep. Continue all the way along it until the very end, where you cross a stile and you're out onto the open countryside. The path is faint, but continue uphill alongside the very small stream and you'll see some lovely viewpoints behind you. As you continue, you could head straight across to Armboth Fell away to your right, but we're not. We're going to head onto Fisher Crag, through this sliding gate and up to the summit. Fisher Crag is actually one of the best features of Armboth Fell, and it's well worth a visit because it affords fine views over Thirlmere and across to the Helvellyn range of hills opposite. The summit of the crag is marked by a small tumble-down cairn. It was neater in Wainwright's day. It's a bit hazy today, but it's a grand spot. From here you can see our route ahead to the top of Armboth Fell. We're going to go down and pick up that faint path that goes underneath the knoll on the left, past the rise in the middle, and then directly up the fell side to the summit of Armboth Fell. The area here is now flat and very wet. Just to our right is the overgrown remnants of Armboth Fell Tarn, a subject that was painted by Heaton Cooper. Along the way you may pass this old tumble-down structure. It's an old corvid trap used by gamekeepers, but those days are now gone, and all that's left is a jumble of wire and posts. I just love this big erratic boulder covered in mosses and lichens, and it may feature in one of my future paintings of Armboth Fell. It's gone quite dull now, but we're heading up towards Armboth Fell. This is part of it, but the summit's over the ridge there. Not much of a path around here. Very boggy, notoriously boggy. So, as usual, I'll just take a line up the side of the fell and make my way to the top, over the squelchy bits. Climbing steadily upwards, Fisher Crag is now behind us across the moss. I've passed by this unusual boulder a couple of times now, and it's always reminded me of a manhole cover with a lid on top. It would be nice to think that it drained Armboth Fell, but it doesn't. This is the actual summit of Armboth Fell. Once you've been here, it's quite easy to identify. I liken it to the shape of an upturned boat. It's just a long sort of ridge of bare, grippy rock. Some interesting markings on it which seem to be natural. And sometimes there's a cairn on it, but don't expect too much. Usually it's 2 or 3 stones. In the distance you can see High Tove. From here to there is a very wet, boggy patch, but we're not going there now. We're going across to here. That rise in the distance, about 200 yards away, is actually the summit that Wainwright identified as the summit. This point here is actually 9 metres or about 30 feet higher. It just shows what an optical illusion it can be. When you're standing over there, this is definitely much higher. But yeah, it's wet between here and there. There's a faint track, so we'll wander off and go and stand on Wainwright's summit of Armboth Fell. And this is what people remember Armboth Fell for. The wet ground. I haven't added in the sound effects of squelching feet. But it's not an area that I've ever found I'm going to sink in up to my ankles in peat. It's just wet, spongy ground. A good pair of boots and it's not really a problem. The Wainwright summit of Armboth Fell is a rise of rock and heather, topped by a small cairn. To the left is High Tove and High Seat, and to the right is the true summit of Armboth Fell. From here, we're going to head south, across the heathermoor to the Shepherd's Cairn Rock. There's no path, you just have to pick your own way. The Shepherd's Cairn Rock is an erratic boulder which sits on a rocky outcrop amongst the heather. If the glacier had dropped it anywhere else, it probably would have sunk out of sight in the peat. In Wainwright's chapter on Armboth Fell, he did a really nice little drawing of this stone, called it the Shepherd's Cairn, because in his day there was a small cairn made up of a few boulders perched right on the very top of this boulder. Sadly it's now gone, there's some stones tumbled down at the back of the boulder. But of course it was used by shepherds in bad weather to identify exactly where they were on the fell. They could identify the boulder and the cairn on top. But times changed, the cairn's no longer needed, and all we're left with is this really nice aged boulder sat on the open fell. We're going to leave Armboth Fell now and head to the south towards Launchy Tarn and a place called Brown Rigg. I've never been here before. It's one of those fells which Wainwright didn't actually describe or complete and include in the 7 pictorial guides, but he did mark it on his first and second lists, so I'm curious to go and have a look, just see what it's like. I don't expect it to be spectacular, but yeah, let's go. Come on. Once again, this is a pathless route, and we're picking our way across the fellside, and Bailey spots this group of deer. Fantastic to see. Picking our way through the peaty mess, we go through the gate and continue through to pick up the gill on the other side. We're now heading for Launchy Gill and Launchy Tarn, which you can see directly ahead of us. And this is Launchy Tarn, really just a large pool in the gill. But it's a lovely setting. The area around here is covered in the remnants of the yellow spikes of bog asphodel. They must look spectacular in season. This is the area of Brown Rigg. That top behind us there is the recognised top of Brown Rigg. It'll be on a few of the hill lists, and that will be, as I say, marked as Brown Rigg. Might go under other names as well, I'm not too sure. But what I'm after is the top that Wainwright considered a Brown Rigg, which is actually not up there, but over this way. I'm going to get myself over to that lower hill over there. There's a couple of red deer running across over there now. Beautiful. And as I say, I'll get myself up to that top and hopefully find what I'm looking for. I knew that near the Wainwright top of Brown Rigg were some benchmarks. They're usually engraved onto rock faces. I had a good look round, but I couldn't see any. But at the top is a triangulation station, marked by a small cairn, almost overgrown. Well, this is the top of Brown Rigg. Not much to it really. There's quite a few of these undulating tops in the proximity here, but behind me is Brown Rigg proper, if you like, and then away behind is Old Scarth and Armboth Fell over that direction. But this is the top of Brown Rigg, the Brown Rigg that Wainwright saw on his map. This is the spot height, 1,475 feet. There's no indication he actually came here. He just marked it on his list when he was coming up with the idea. There's nothing going for it in many ways. The views around are really good, but not so good tonight because of the weather. Whether anyone else comes here or not, I don't know. But it's just my curiosity that's got the better of me. Just down from the summit, I spotted this split boulder, and it reminded me of the Cloven Stone among Grisdale Common, except this one's got a tree growing out of it. Nearby, a tumbled down sheepfold, and that's about all there was on Brown Rigg. We were now heading back north to pick up Launchy Gill, and we descended down towards the Gill using this steep quad bike track. By the time we reached the Gill, the light was fading, so we crossed over into the wood and descended down past these impressive waterfalls before reaching the road. From there, we headed north back to the car park. And that was my day out onto Armboth Fell and Brown Rigg. Unfortunately, as you saw, the weather wasn't brilliant, because even though it's not a brilliant fell, it does have some fine views, especially over towards the Helvellyn range and down over Thirlmere, especially from Fisher Crag. The bonus for me, of course, was seeing those red deer, especially as they were in amongst those sheep. And it's encounters like that which make any day out in the fells special, no matter what the fell. If you've enjoyed the film, please feel free to click the like button, and even better, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, because I'll be uploading more films in the near future. But as I always say, thanks for watching.